Guard Your Peace. Part 1. Where True Power Begins. There is a moment in every man's life when the world goes quiet, not because the chaos has stopped, but because he no longer reacts to it. In that moment, he discovers a truth more valuable than gold. Peace is not given, it is earned, it is built, and it must be defended like a fortress. The man who lacks peace wakes up each morning as a servant to noise, scrolling, chasing, explaining, proving. His mind is not his own. His soul is on leash to the expectations of others. He becomes a puppet of urgency, pulled in every direction but his own. But the man who owns his peace, he becomes untouchable. His decisions no longer come from fear, but from clarity. His silence carries more weight than the words of others, and people notice, not because he demands respect, but because his energy quietly commands it. You see, peace is not passive. It's not what happens when nothing's wrong. Peace is presence. Peace is power. It's the strength to remain centered while the world tries to pull you off course. The discipline to choose stillness when your ego wants reaction. The wisdom to say no without guilt. And yet, most men give it away without even realizing it. With every argument they didn't need to enter. With every person they allowed too close. With every time they said yes to avoid disappointing someone who never respected them in the first place. Each act a leak. Each leak a slow surrender. Real peace doesn't come from controlling your environment. It comes from controlling your access. Who gets your energy? Who gets your time? Who gets your attention when your soul is tired? The man who doesn't guard his peace will lose it to drama, to noise, to people who feed on his availability. And make no mistake, women feel it instantly. They know when your mind is scattered. They know when your attention is cheap. They can sense when your world bends to their emotion. And while they may enjoy that power for a moment, they lose respect for the man who gives it too easily. So here's your call to rise. You don't need to fight for peace. You simply need to stop surrendering it. Every time you remain silent when you used to react, you win. Every time you walk away instead of explaining, you win. Every time you choose presence over performance, you win. Guard your peace, not just for yourself, but for everything you're building, because the man who loses himself for others gains nothing. But the man who anchors himself in peace, he becomes the storm's master, not its victim. Who conquers himself is mightier than he who conquers a city. Lao Tzu. If this spoke to the quiet warrior within you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it, pass it on. Somewhere out there, a man is drowning in noise, waiting to be reminded that his stillness is sacred. Part 2. The leaks that drain a man. Most men don't lose their peace in explosions. They lose it through tiny cracks, barely visible but constantly leaking. A message they respond to instantly, even when their mind is exhausted. A favor they agree to out of guilt, not integrity. A conversation at midnight with a woman who disrespects them in the daylight. These are not acts of strength. They are quiet withdrawals from the bank of self-respect. And eventually, you wake up hollow. Not angry, not broken, just emptied. A man who gives too much without replenishment becomes a ghost wearing his own skin. You cannot build anything solid with a scattered mind. You can't lead a woman with a distracted soul. You can't earn the respect of the world if you've never earned the stillness of your own being. Peace is the foundation of presence, and presence is what makes a man unforgettable. Here's the painful irony. When you try to be everything for everyone, you slowly become nothing for yourself. You attend the gatherings out of obligation. You reply to messages just to be polite. You let others speak over you because you fear being misunderstood. And piece by piece, your fire dims. And women, they don't need you to be perfect, but they need to feel your center. If your schedule bends to her mood, if your words soften to avoid tension, if your space has no boundaries, she will begin to lead. And the moment she senses that you follow where you should stand, her admiration dissolves. True respect isn't earned by force. It's granted in the presence of consistency. When your values are clear, when your time is sacred, when your soul has a center of gravity so deep, no storm can move it. To guard your peace, you must design your life as a gate, not a highway. Not everything deserves access. Not everyone gets your time. Your calendar should reflect your priorities, not your fears. Your home should be a temple, not a transit station for emotional tourists. Because every yes you give out of fear becomes a no to yourself. And if you keep doing that, you'll wake up one day surrounded by people who love the version of you that doesn't even exist anymore. So choose differently. Let your stillness offend those who feed on chaos. Let your boundaries be firm, even when your heart is soft. Say no, not as rebellion, but as self-respect. Because your peace isn't just protection, it's preparation for the life you're meant to build, for the woman who will truly admire your presence, and for the storms that will come, not to destroy you, but to reveal what you've built. If you seek tranquility, do less. Or more accurately, do what's essential. Marcus Aurelius. If this reminded you of a truth you've been avoiding, now is the time to return to it. Share it with the man you were and become the man you're meant to be. Part 3. Presence is the new power. Peace isn't about silence, it's about strength. And presence, the kind that changes rooms without raising a voice, is its natural outcome. A man rooted in peace doesn't flinch when tested. He doesn't chase explanations. He doesn't trade his calm to win an argument, because he understands energy is currency, and not every transaction is worth the cost. When someone throws shade, he doesn't block the sun to argue in the dark. He lets it pass, because his identity isn't built on reaction, it's built on resolve. This is the man who becomes unforgettable, not for his words, but for what he withholds, not for his aggression, but for his restraint. In a world addicted to attention, the man who doesn't need it commands it. And that is what women truly crave, but rarely articulate. Not a man who controls her, but a man who controls himself. The one whose schedule isn't open to emotional storms, whose tone doesn't shift based on mood, who chooses stillness when provoked, not to be passive, but powerful. So when she tests you, not to hurt you, but to feel your edge, you don't lash out. You don't beg. You remain grounded, centered. You let her question echo into the stillness. And when you speak, it's not noise, it's choice. That's how a man commands respect, without raising a hand, a voice, or a threat. Just presence, just peace. But presence is impossible if you don't know who you are, if your values change to match the room, if your boundaries dissolve in the warmth of attention, then your peace is not guarded, it's rented. And one day, someone will stop paying. To reclaim presence, begin with the basics. Wake up before the world demands your focus. Train your body, not for image, but for inner order. Read until your excuses are embarrassed. Clean your space, not to impress, but to reflect the clarity within. And cut ties. Yes, even with those who once meant something. If they now represent chaos, they no longer belong. Guarding your peace requires sacrifice, but what you give up is nothing compared to what you become. Because the man who protects his peace becomes the man the world cannot manipulate. No man is free who is not master of himself. Epictetus. If these words stirred something in you, don't ignore it. Share them. Let another man hear what he forgot he needed to remember. Let your strength become a quiet revolution. Part 4. The discipline behind stillness. The world teaches men to chase power, but never how to hold peace. And yet, the most powerful man you'll ever meet is also the calmest. His strength doesn't roar, it radiates. It's not on display. It's embedded in his habits, stitched into his discipline. He doesn't argue over small things because he knows small minds feed on chaos. He doesn't attend every drama he's invited to because not every reaction deserves a seat at his table. Peace is not passive. It is disciplined. It is forged in quiet mornings when no one is watching, in the way he refuses the snooze button, in how he says no to indulgence, not because he can't, but because he already chose something higher. He doesn't scroll through hours of noise. He reads, learns, builds. He doesn't chase women who drain him. He attracts by being whole without them. He doesn't seek applause. He moves in silence because what he's building isn't for the crowd. It's for the crown within. And his body? Trained not for attention, but for alignment. He lifts not just weight, but his own standards. He pushes through resistance, not for a mirror, but for mastery, because he knows that the man who cannot control his impulses will always be a slave to the world. So when others flinch, he remains still. When chaos knocks, he doesn't answer. When noise rises, he listens inward. This is not detachment, it is direction. It is the deep knowledge that every minute of focus is a brick in the foundation of something unshakable. Women can feel this. The world can sense it. A man who has nothing to prove but everything to protect. His peace, his presence, his purpose is untouchable. Not because he's above others, but because he's finally within himself. He is no longer available for conversations that shrink him. No longer apologizing for standards that elevate him. No longer explaining why he chose silence over spectacle. And when someone accuses him of changing, he doesn't defend. He smiles. Because they're right. He did change. He remembered who he was. Be like the rock that the waves keep crashing over. It stands unmoved, and the raging of the sea falls still around it. Marcus Aurelius. If this truth grounded you, let it ground someone else. Share this, because the more men who rise in stillness, the fewer men fall to noise. Part 5. When you become the peace. You were not born to beg for peace in a noisy world. You were born to become it, to embody it so completely that chaos has no place left to land. There will be moments when people misunderstand your stillness, when your silence is mistaken for weakness, your boundaries for arrogance. Let them. You are not here to be explained, you are here to be experienced. And only those who are ready will understand your presence. Because the more you protect your peace, the more it sharpens. It cuts through lies, through guilt, through the weight of expectations you never agreed to carry. You no longer react to everything that moves. You no longer wait for others to calm your storms. You become the still water that reflects everything and absorbs nothing. This doesn't mean you isolate, it means you elevate. You rise above gossip, emotional games, and false urgency. You stop being the man who's always available, because what's always available is rarely valuable. And yes, some people will leave. Let them. Because peace is a door, and it only opens one way. You don't chase what belongs outside. You were not built to survive in chaos, you were made to reign in calm. And when you finally realize that, you'll look back on the life you once tolerated and wonder why you ever let noise define you. So take one step today. Say no to something that drains you. Wake up 1 hour earlier. Speak less, mean more. Delete what distracts. Honor your solitude. Because in that space, something sacred will return to you. Your center, your command, your quiet power. And from that stillness, a new man rises. One who no longer needs applause to feel alive. One whose peace is not rented, but owned. One who, when she looks at him, doesn't spark excitement, but reverence. And that is the man she'll never try to control. That is the man the world listens to when he finally decides to speak. Who is not a slave to desire, becomes a king in silence. The chill Stoic. If this found you at the right time, don't keep it to yourself. Somewhere, a brother is drowning in noise. Share this peace, be his silence, and rise together.